product. Solver is the name of our company. We've been working with SBS Group for over 5 years now, and our goal, and it's kind of a new phrasing of it for us, is enabling world-class decisions. So that includes reporting, that includes budgeting, forecasting, gathering information from as many sources as you practically can to help make those decisions, but also the second part is making those decisions with data not tied up somewhere in a silo or inside the IT analyst's PC, but where anybody can access it and access it accurately. So what makes world-class decisions? It's more than just financials. It is getting deeper insight, getting it faster, of course having it accurate. Nothing's good if it's not accurate. You're gathering not just financial data, but strategic data, and then things to help your decision support as well. Track those decisions both before and after they're made to see if the problem's gotten better. So how to do that is unique to every organization. There's not a one-size-fits-all answer to this, but certainly the things that BI 360 does help with that. We can certainly get and allow you with the ability to enter data that's not in your ERP system. We certainly have the ability to design reports and budget input templates in Excel, which people are used to using. Have the ability to make sure that data is accurate because it's integrated immediately from your ERP system, possibly your CRM system or other systems as well. And then last, the ability to send reports daily, weekly, and monthly. Everybody does monthly. I see not enough people doing them. Daily, weekly, whatever the payroll cycle is, those types of things to help get better reporting. And then last, the ability to do multi-year reports, narrative reports, kind of alerts and other reports to help tell you when things are out of balance is another way to make better decisions. One of the other things we start with a lot is management reporter replacement. We get that a lot. I wanted to include a slide. That's not going to be the key to this webinar. We're going to talk mostly about budgeting, but we do have replacements to management reporter. Unlike that, we do not do just general ledger data. We do it from the receivables, from the payables, from even the CRM system if necessary. We have all the Excel formatting. We can do our own allocations. We can send data out proactively. And we have now, for the last 6 months, a public cloud deployment option. We've had the private cloud option for several years, and that is new for us as well. That is called BI 360 Cloud. So whatever version of software you might want, we have the ability to make your budgeting process less painful. If you've outgrown your Excel models, biggest problem with Excel models is that they're single user. They don't have a database attached to them. So if you send it to 10 people, you've got to collaborate all that up. If someone inserted a row or changed a formula, you're in big trouble. Not so with BI 360. We can get that data back in your ERP as well as keep it in BI 360. And we have a couple of special budgeting features I'll show today as well. And then last, that's also forecasting. That's also modeling. So one sample advanced workflow that we have, and kind of take a look, this is just a pair of screenshots that we can do, is, and again, this was done by our Scandinavian developers. If you can tell that from the names we'll see in a minute. But some templates are not started. We have an in process, so certain people are working on a template, probably for their sub-account part of the organization. Then someone else is finished, waiting for someone to approve it. Someone is approving, and then when it is approved, It might go back for a second or third round of approval, and then it is finished. So those are our 5 statuses that we can go through, and that helps. And of course, we divide that up the company based how you want to. The secret in this is not have 2 people assigned to update the same slice of the company at the same time, and you can do that based on any of the fields inside your ERP system or data warehouse. Okay, so again, I'll let you read this yourself. I'll just kind of talk highly. So some of the things that make a world-class budgeting is the ability to make it strategic to your organization. Not everybody's the same. We know that. We know it's unique to not just the chart of accounts, but the segments, the approval processes, where the knowledge is, and so on. Secondly, intelligently pre-populating budget data based on other data, and the right other data in the right places is key. So some people, have to think globally. Do we pre-populate, or do we do zero-based budgeting? Do we base it on last year's actuals, of course, with forecast for the rest of the year, with a percentage change? Do we do it on last year's budget or last year's forecast? Do we take a couple of years and, average them out and do it? All of those are fine. What we're finding is with more organizations, one of those answers is right for revenue, another one's right for overhead costs, a third is right for special event things, and maybe for another smaller set of things, zero-based budgeting's right. So it's a hybrid of all of those, and we have the ability to do that and set that up how you want to. The others of these we'll talk about or work on later. So if you go with our new cloud option, and it is an option, we still have the on-premise, and that's great for people who have their on-premise for now. I'm sorry, their ERP or on-premise for now. But if you move to the cloud, no matter where your ERP is, it can make it easy for installation, because there really isn't any. Upgrades are done automatically by the solver and Microsoft team. All of the data loading can be, well, almost all of the data loading can be wizard-driven from an ETL tool. We do have an Excel load that I won't call wizard-driven automatic loading, but it is there if you need it to. That data warehouse configuration can be automated, as well as some templates that we have that kind of quickly update things, and I'll let you read the rest of them. Helps build in too. So BI 360 is based on Azure and the public Azure hosting. It's designed for the end user. HTML5 is the programming language. That means it works in a lot of browsers, including the smartphones and the tablets and the things that aren't a normal web size. But for power users, it's still Excel, and it's desktop Excel. And unlike some of our previous versions, it's not awkward in the Excel where there's a second version of Excel on a terminal server. We've had to do that in the past. We've now worked beyond that. But we have an on-premise version too that works just fine and great. And the differences between those two are going to probably go away in the next year or so. So our architecture slide, you have an ERP. Who knows where it is? It's on-premise, it's private cloud, it might be public cloud. Then we have our budgeting and reporting that can access that or access it from the data warehouse. If you have other data sources, CRM, payroll, they're the big two, industry-specific billing or purchasing packages we see in a lot of different types of organizations. All of that can go to the data warehouse, and that's where our dashboard, our reporting and budgeting can work from. If you have all of this data in from your larger system, That can make it a lot easier, not so much to do budgeting, but to do forecasting. If your CRM allows you to pretty accurately see sales for the next 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, depending on your industry, and then use that in your forecasting. If you're able to see from your payroll what your costs should be in payroll for the next 3 to 6 months or the rest of the year, use that. As people transfer, as people get promotions or whatever, you can use that data. Any other data out there you can use as well. Okay, let's take a quick look at this. And I am in BI 360 Cloud. I'm in our public version of this. And I wanted to just show a couple of things before we truly get into the details. First, the navigation of this is just like any other website. We have our, again, visual clouds. That's a little bit different. We can kind of put away or bring in some of these panels to help us navigate. We have our budgeting, we have our workflow options, we have our data warehouse, and I'm really going to start with this data warehouse. One of the things in there is integrations that we may have, like Dynamics 365 into this, if you have or thinking about that application. It's also hosted in Azure. We have the ability to edit and change and turn on that integration immediately, change which fields get mapped to where, and schedule that to update automatically without us worrying about it each and every day. So that can be very, very helpful. Secondly, that will automatically update any fields that are not in our data warehouse that you're using inside Dynamics 365. So that is a second thing that can truly help. I'm going to show reporting for just a second, and then I'll move to the budgeting. Of course, many people, usually more people, do reporting than budgeting, so they would be seeing, again, our budget amount is here, and of course our actuals are here, so we can look at either of those and be able to work with and see those. Within any of these, if we right-click, we have the ability to drill down to the transactions that make that up. Actual transactions from the actual data, budget transactions from the budget data, so we're able to run through and make sure all of our data is accurate from there. We're able to have Excel graphs in here, fonts, colors, and all of those types of things as well, which are surprisingly not in an amazing number of packages. I can export this to Excel with formulas. I can send it to archive. I've already archived this, so it gives me the red thing, but that allows us to have an end user version. And then last, we have a brand new feature we added for just comments. So and we can put in a comment if we want to, kind of save that, and again, be able to track or work within these as well. So kind of a nice little thing to be able to save as we go through things. Budgeting works off the same templates and the same tool we use to create the reports. So these examples I'm going to show you are just that, examples. They can be made more or less complex as you need to. Our example data is calendar year, is our fiscal year. We also are setting up all of our stuff by entity and department. Those are the two segments of the chart of accounts that we're kind of dividing our budget users by. But of course, that can be for whatever you want to. But the most important kind of thing is we usually use a double, sometimes triple level set of budget templates. The first one that we have here is our Assumptions tab. Every organization adds extra stuff to this Assumptions tab beyond what we have in here. This is really designed for the administrators of the budgeting process, to put data in that's either not in their ERP, or for next year it would be different from what's in the ERP, something like this FICA maximum and so on seems to change every year. Numbers a day in February can change every 4 years, things like that. And then last, if there's any data that the folks in the accounting and admin want to put in for the people in the field. So average plane ticket and average hotel room are two great examples I like to use, because of course they're going to change dynamically, the prices of that. So using an estimate is probably the best thing, and you don't want your department managers to try to frantically negotiate the best air deal in October for next calendar year's budgeting. So anyway, so we kind of put that in. After we do this, I'll kind of go back up to our budgeting. And again, I am going to go away. I didn't save any of that data. Normally I would. That allows us to do, I'm going to show you 3 more templates in the few minutes we have left. The first is that we can use this to do a forecast. And often the forecast is the first thing you do when you start the budgeting cycle. So we have the first 9 months, and again, that's because that's what our update was of actual, and then we're entering or updating from the budget to the actual for the last 3 months. So we can again change this data if we need to. I'm going to put in 140,000 instead of what was there before. If I'm ready to save that data, I'd hit the Save Data button, and that would save it centrally to the data warehouse. So this is multi-user. I can do this for Department 100, while somebody else does it for, say, Department 200 or 300. And then last, once we've updated this, and I will kind of, let's put this away so we can see the total part of this. Those totals change as well, and we can update this as necessary, save it, and then we're ready to go. Second thing that we can do after we've put in our thing is, let me go in and show for a minute our travel assumptions. Now we can do it on payroll too. Let me run that again. Oh, okay. So what this template's allowing us to do is we've brought in our, for at least my department, my employees that I manage. So if we're going to open a new location, I'll put that in, and if because of that they're going to do 5 trips and 3 days each, they'll need to fly. We will let Charlie, not Clint, rent the car, and that's how many miles they might drive, and we'll go ahead and make this January through May. And then that allows us, just from this data that we've entered, the ability to then have the air costs done. And again, I did 5 trips in 5 months on purpose, so hopefully you remember the $495 that we've kind of averaged out there. Same on the hotel night stays and so on. And we had other things in that assumptions tab for luggage and rental and other expenses. All could get mapped to the right GL accounts. What's unique about this template and what I like for especially the most variable or the expense and revenue accounts you need to spend the most time managing is we didn't ask the department managers to enter dollars here. We said how many trips, how many days, yes, no, how many miles, what months. But then from the assumptions tab, we did the amounts and put those in. There's sometimes that will make things way more accurate, and way more accurate not only from initial entry but through approval as well. And maybe other times it doesn't. But this can be a nice strategy to use for those accounts and those expenses or revenues where it matters the most or that are the most variable. Okay. So I'm going to jump out again. I'm not saving this data, so it will come work on that. Next one that I'm going to show is our other expenses. So this template's really designed for the ones unlike travel where we've written a customized version of this. We have a set of data in here that can help us. And we have 3 ways we can enter this data. And first, I do have here, I have my department 100, I have the different entity that's mine, and I can change some of these if I need to, but I'm just going to take this selection pane and put it over here so we can see our data a little bit better. I have to the right, I have last year's actuals for 9 months, forecast for 3 months that we had updated before, and we'll use that 1 or 2 places if we need to. And then secondly, at the bottom, I have the payroll and travel data that we did in the travel template, and I didn't show you the payroll template, but we can do that by employee as well. So we have a total expenses that we can manage, including the ones we're not entering here. So again, very flexible in how these templates work. You can do this or not do this. I've seen people put 2 years of history or 3 if they want to, and that's fine as well. So 3 ways to enter data here, and we use yellow as the background color for that. First, gifts and donations. If we want to put in another $100 gift, we can do that. Just type numbers into the cell. That's not the only way that we do this, though. Let me go ahead and do conferences and seminars. And then at the bottom, we have this little spread and line item details. So what somebody had entered before was for conferences and seminars, we're putting in the conferences we're going to. So if we're going to the Dynamic Summit, and actually I was right next to SBS Group at the Dynamic Summit in Nashville last year, we can put in that cost. Focus, that's Solver's user conference. We do that in August every year. And whatever other conferences you want, you can put in amounts. You can spread it through all 12 months if that makes sense, or maybe it's just October. You can put that into. So, okay, so that's one way to do that. Again, we'll just put the line down. Second one that I'll do, maybe office supplies is a good way to do this, is then what we're able to do is take a look. If I had last year's data here, and I don't in this one, but I could copy last year's history. I could evenly spread a number if I wanted to. So I had 13,000 here, but if I want to say we'll do 12,000 evenly, again, that becomes 1,000 a month, or I could adjust it, maybe add 2% to that and adjust that, so I'm now 1,020, or some other ways to do that as well. I could enter dollars instead of percentages if that made sense too. So that is a second thing that we can do. So either calculate off last year's history or round numbers to put in an auto spread, put in the line item details if we want to. All are options that we have to do more detail. Third thing that I'll do here, let me bring one of these up, is these little red triangles. That means we have another comment here too. So if we wanted to, we could put in some more comment or some more detail or something to help understand what these expenses are for and track that too. So when we save this, and again, I will finally save some data here, it will save it to the data warehouse, recalculate the form, and move on. And again, some of these things in this cell are read-only, so they kind of come back from the other side. I do have an instruction sheet. I don't really need to go into detail on that. But again, this can help us, and now we have our, again, this year versus last year, and we're pretty close on all of them, aren't we, from this year to last year. All right. Last one that I'll kind of show in detail, and then I'll move on to one or two other things that we can do here as well. Jumping back into budgeting is to show a slightly different part of this. So I did skip personnel details, I skipped revenue details, any other thing that we can. Once we've taken that data and we have our budget data in there, and probably once we've approved it, but that's not required. I have kind of a more advanced thing here. This is a cash flow projection, you know, kind of budget. It's probably more of a what-if type thing than a save it, but that's up to you too. But I kind of like what people have done this, and all of these formulas are done with Excel. What they've chosen to enter in is kind of industry specific. It was actually done for a mortgage company. So a few things make sense only for a mortgage company, but hopefully most people have dealt with a mortgage company to know enough of what I'm talking about. So anyway, so kind of our pre-calculation, you know, we're doing all right, you know, and have a little graph here at the bottom. But what we're able to do is to put in and say, what might our, you know, overall monthly change in inflows be? So, you know, if we're going to do a 2 or 3, I'm sorry that here we can put that in. If we're going to take, you know, get an extra $1,000 just in May or in January, we can do that. And then what's our percent of collections coming back in? Then what's our overall monthly payroll change? Again, maybe that's 0. We're not expecting any change in this. But they also took, and I found this kind of interesting, 3 different expense accounts and put them in here. And I think, well, the first 2 were the easiest for them to change expense accounts, and the third one is the one that's important to them. They have no ability to change. So the first one is office supplies. So again, times are bad. Maybe they can skimp on the office supplies for a month or 2 and get away with it. And then maybe the same with their consulting. Maybe they need to increase the consulting if times are bad, but that's an argument we'll make another time. But then if postage goes up, and again, I guess you really don't have a choice there, do you? You can put that into. So each of those you might or might not have noticed changed our numbers down here and changed our cash flow a little bit. So we do have kind of that ability. Take a couple of variables that might happen to revenue, take an overall thing that may or may not happen to expenses, maybe put in a couple of exact expense accounts or an exact revenue account, or maybe the ones you can't change. So it might be office supplies you can change the most in the short term. It might be overtime for hourly payroll. It might be something else. But whatever that short-term thing might be, go ahead, put it in the template, make this your own, rerun it, recalculate it, and move on from there. And I'm not going to save that data just to make sure the template runs well the next time. So that's kind of an example of a fancier version of a template. They can be as easy or as complicated as you wish, and this kind of makes sense. So the last two things that I want to point out, then I'll take some questions. First, on our BI360 cloud, we have the ability to input and link anything here. So we could link it back to Dynamics 365 or whatever your ERP is. We can put in some videos here. We kind of did a training video. You can, of course, do your own as for things that work with you. Link it back to our training. We have a whole bunch of little kind of demos here to help if you want to. And you can see any of those later if you wish to. We got the support link. But again, if you want to link to your timesheets, if you want to link to your expense report, link anything else from here, you sure can, or have this link to something else. Beauty of the cloud and the web. Then the second thing I want to show, and this is, if you've ever seen BI360 before, you have not seen this. This is a new feature we have called archived reports, and a new type of user for archived reports. So once the budget's done, you've run that monthly budget to actual report maybe, or any other report, you can have it archived. And the archive users are typically kind of third in the line. They get to only see the reports that the accounting department has said, yes, we're publishing those out. End of month reports are the best example of that, Joe. A lot of people don't really or shouldn't really see the reports before the end of the month for the current month. They haven't got all the expenses allocated out or something like that. So wait till the end of the month. It gets published. It's there, and you can take a look at it. We can have some detailed reports here as well. So what I can do is, of course, just go ahead and open one of these. And that's the one we looked at before. No big deal there. But we can also open up two of these if we need to, or maybe three. So let's open up our P&L and our sales by salesperson so we can help figure out who's doing well, who's not. Why are those, sales doing well, and give credit to Elizabeth and Kurt are the two who are having a good year, or something like that. And again, can kind of all of these scroll independently, set them up if you want to. I'm sorry, let me go back into that. Secondly, I should have done it a second ago when I had this open again, is that we can, of course, still do our right-click drill downs here, even though it's an archived report. So that's a nice thing that we haven't been able to do in our previous versions of BI360. You either could run everything all the time, or and drill down, or you could just see a PDF version of the report, basically. Now we have kind of a hybrid in there as well. Last thing we can do with this is we have playlists. So we can have an end of month or other types of playlists where we put 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or as many reports as you need to into that list, kind of like on the music, where you chain together your favorite songs for when you're working out, and be able to see those reports and so on. So again, you can make as many of these as you wish right now, make them for each month, and be able to see these reports. And then the last part of this that's kind of important, and I don't have it listed here, but you do have the ability for the administrators to know when somebody read their report, and that's something we never had before. So if you're one of those accountants who are curious, is that person actually reading the financials? You can actually find out. So a couple of neat things like that in the archives as well. So, all right. So now I'm going to open this up for any questions that we might have.
Hi, Tom.
Brittany?
You must have been really thorough because we haven't had any questions come through.
Wow. Okay.
I take it
So,
as a compliment, though.
well, I will ask the question I get asked more often than any others, and that is, what does BI 360 Cloud cost? And that is a little too complicated to give a flat-out answer here because it's based on modules, based on number of users, and actually now based on number of companies and some other data storage questions that kind of work through this. However, I will say it on average is a little bit less money than our on-premise solution, and because it includes the servers that go with it, that's really a bargain. So talk to your SBS sales rep about that, and we can certainly come up with a price for some extra small things. It's only a couple $100 a month for a lot of our standard solutions where it's 50 users and budgeting and reporting and everything together. It's a $2,000 or $3,000 a month, but again, that can change based on many questions and in the setup and functions within the pricing scheme. Oh, I said scheme, pricing algorithm that we use for that. And because it's shared with Microsoft Azure, there's actually some technical things underneath that we have to kind of work with since Microsoft's providing the server and storage and cloud access that we work with. But do take a look at that, and thanks for that. If there's any other questions, we have just a minute. Go ahead and type those in. If not, I would want to thank everybody for their time today and hope to talk to you in the future.
Yes, Tom, we haven't had any come through, but if anyone has any questions, you can email info@sbsgroupusa.com, and we will get you an answer as soon as possible. And again, this web recording will be posted to our website, and you will be sent a copy as well. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Brittany. Have a great day.
You too.